So, if you're like me, then you are a massive fan of the most recent Dune adaptations. I mean, these two films are foundational pieces of our pop culture over the last 5 years, and any digital artist worth their weight in spice on this platform has created something for them. And I want in on the action. So here's what we're gonna do. I am going to create two 11x17 Photoshop posters and take you along with me as I go through 3 core design techniques I use to get each one done. May thy stylist chip and shatter. I don't know, actually. May thy stylist chip and shatter. Let's kick things off by opening up a fresh canvas. On the screen are the standard settings that I like to use. Feel free to take them if you're following along. We just need to fill this with a basic color and move on to step 1. Image collection. So this is the basic composition I'm thinking for both posters. One big circle, one tiny circle, and the logo. Meaning we need high quality headshots of every character we can find for our floating head poster. And we need asset images. These consist of photos like space, sand dunes, planets, fireballs, particle effects, yada, yada, yada. And luckily the 2021 Dune movie has a surprising amount of fantastic high quality images of all its main characters, which is super cool and super rare. It is not the case for the second movie, and we'll get into that in a second. Once we've decided on a headshot, we can then bring it into Photoshop and start removing the background with the pen tool. Once we've got them finally cut out, we can turn that layer into a smart object and place it onto our canvas. Rinse and repeat until everyone is at the party, and we can start laying them out. Doesn't that, look pretty good? Doesn't look half bad, right?
And they ask you how you are, and you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
Don't answer that. So, they're all in the same space, sure, but I'm still not feeling the cohesion just yet. They need to really feel like they're inhabiting the same space, thus leading to step 2. Smoke and atmosphere. We need to cover all these mofos in a bunch of smoke. I do this by downloading a transparent smoke PNG and placing it onto the canvas. Make sure to place so that it maintains its resolution as a smart object. Now we go over here and press this little button to give it a layer mask, and we clip a hue and saturation layer onto the smoke layer. Now we can just copy and paste all over the canvas and layer it in between each character. We just use a brush and we paint away some of the areas we don't like this. And we finish up by matching the color values to the light source that is closest to our smoke. Easy. I think this does a lot of heavy lifting on the cohesion side and covers up some of the rough edges that might be left over from my inherent laziness. After a lot of effects and coloring and tidying up, leaves us with one really big thing left to fix. Step 3, using generative fill. Now hold on before you click away. It's just a very tiny bit of generative fill. As you can see from the photos of Timothée Chalamet and Zendaya, they have these really thin wisps of hair that I had to cut away because I'm not talented enough to pull hair like that. And if you say you are, I don't fucking believe you for a second. Don't even start. I see you typing. Stop. I have a shortcut. So you don't need to tell me what you do. You can just suck it. Basically, after all the editing is done and we put our lens flares and we put our particle effects and we have our lighting on our characters how we like it, we can then use the selection lasso tool to wrap around the edges of our character's hair and then just click generative fill and add hair.
A few moments later.
Perfect. Just like that. See, the best part about this is it takes into account all the work you've already done and adds that to its generative additions, giving you a really professional look in a few clicks. I mean, look at how that lens flare just kind of pushes through his hair and gives accurate shadows and kind of, what's the fancy word for, when you have a light that shines through something? What is that called? What is that? Subsurface scattering. And yeah, is it a shortcut? Probably. Does it reflect poorly on my Photoshop skills? Possibly. Am I going to stop using it? Stupidest fucking joke. And that's my poster for Dune 2021. I am super happy with how this one turned out. We'll compare both posters at the end of the video, but I think for now I'll say this one had better photos and a stronger composition, but the colors come off significantly flatter and more muted than I originally intended. Moving on. Jumping into the poster for part 2, a lot of the steps are going to stay the same. We need to spend some time quickly gathering photos to fit the same rough composition because I want both of these posters to work as a pair. But the first thing we're definitely going to do differently is we're going to create the Emperor's ship from the second movie by hand, from scratch, as they say, because I can't find any photos that work. Anyway, creating a floating metallic sphere in Photoshop sounds really difficult, but trust me, it's not. It takes just a few simple effects and shapes. So first, we're gonna open up this stock photo of some, just have to be sand dunes, it's just a desert, and create a circle shape in the center. Now we're gonna skedaddle on over here to the filter effects, and we are going to hit spherize and just keep that bad boy at 100%. After that's done, you now Command T and free transform our photo so that the edges match up to the circle we made previously. Command click on the shape layer to get some marching ants, as we call them in the biz, and create a layer mask to remove the edges. Now we just mask in some shadows and some highlights to give it some depth, maybe add a little twirl in there, and voila. Sphere. But it isn't the ship yet. This thing isn't even close to being worthy of carrying around the great Christopher Walken. Come on now. Come on now. You think you can... Okay. So we're gonna group everything together and treat that as the outside shell. And then we're gonna use a layer mask to then start removing pieces from the shell and then put shapes underneath it to be kind of like the ship. I'm just looking at pictures from the movie and trying to get as close as I can. There's not a whole lot of detail required because it's going to be pretty small and covered up with a bunch of effects and smoke and sand later on. Now that we have our ship, we can lay out our characters really quick and move on to step 2, which is spending an ass ton amount of time painting in highlights and shadows painstakingly. The primary goal here is to use hue and saturation filters to keep both sides of the characters where the flames are, matching those while maintaining some blue in the shadow. So it's gonna be orange, kind of like the light hitting me here, and then we're gonna use exposure layers to keep it blue in the intersection of the shadow. Designers seem to get very nitpicky about the photorealism and the physics for this, and I don't think that's totally necessary. I mean, if there's room for artistic interpretation, I think you should put it in. Lady Jessica is completely ass orange, even though she's in the center of the circle. And I did that intentionally because she's such a driving force of the plot, and she's fully given over to the Bene Gesserit and everything else in the movie that she didn't feel like she needed to be in any sort of duality. Or she's already basically completely orange in the only photo I could find that fit what I was looking for. And it made her stand out really strong, and I kind of ran out of time and energy. Who's to say? Who's to say? Now we can just layer on some particle effects, get some spice in there, a lens flare or two, and we're finally ready to close out with the final step: oil paint and camera raw filters. I like to finish up my posters by grouping all of my layers in the layer panel and duplicating that group, so then we can merge it, cut it, and run it through all our filters non-destructively. We don't want to lose all our hard work, do we? Run it through an oil paint filter up here in the filter bar at the top, because I think it kind of in a weird way has this effect of upscaling really shitty kind of blurry or low resolution photos that you may be using to get by. You do want to keep it minimal though, because you get the accusation that it's AI generated when things get too wavy. You don't want that either, so we're gonna kind of ride that line. I think that looks pretty good. Now we travel back up here and we click on the camera raw filter. Recently, I've been completely foregoing doing any color grading myself, and I've just been using presets here in the top right. I think it adds a lot of orange crunch while maintaining some of that blue there, which we want because so many people have blue eyes now. And then, you know, classic YouTube Photoshop, we crank the clarity bar and we add some contrast, some grain. We can do a noise reduction, really pump up that orange. I think I like how this looks. Now, the last thing I'm gonna do on top of that final layer is put my logo, put in the actors' names, and we're gonna paint over some light blue very softly over their eyes, just to make sure we didn't lose any of that spice that's in their eyes in the movies. We didn't want to lose that. I think it kind of gets lost in the first one, but because it's not as prevalent, I'm gonna not fix it in the first one. I'm fixing it now, all right? And that is my poster for Dune Part 2. God damn, am I happy with this one. Holy shit. I'm so happy with how this poster turned out. I mean, honestly, yes, I think it's better than the second one if we're comparing the two, but like I said, the first one has better photos and a stronger composition, but this one has such an intense color to it that I really, you can't look away. Let me know down below what you think of both these posters. I would love to have a conversation with you guys. I've been answering all the comments. I've been getting a lot of great feedback. I've been learning a lot from you as much as, I don't know, maybe you could possibly be learning from me. Please don't forget to like and subscribe if you like what I do here. It really does help. It lets YouTube know it needs to show my videos to more people like you. It's really appreciated. Until next time, stay sexy. I love you. Happy New Year. Couldn't reach it.